So a bunch of people asked me a question, which I was like, I think I should do a video about this. They asked me why Andy Cohen seems to hate me so much. Why, for example, they never include me in any of the nostalgia stuff formally through Bravo. Why he has to shade the documentary that I was in, The Housewife and the Hustler. And of course, me directly within that. Why he never sort of reaches out just to say hey, or invite me to BravoCon or anything like that, right? And so a lot of the fans are really confused by this. And so I thought, wow, that is such a good question. And I think I have a few theories on this, and I thought I'd share them. Now, the first theory kind of came from Brian Moylan as an inspiration to me. He came on my podcast called Dishing Drama, Dana Wilkey Uncensored, which is a gossip show that's pretty awesome. You have to pay for it, though, so just Anywho, the book name is The Housewives, the real story behind the Real Housewives. And in this, Brian and I started chit-chatting about, it starts in this section. It was when Zalznick arrived at Bravo, she brought some of her own people with her. This included Andy Cohen, a programming executive under her at Trio, who had desperately tried to buy Queer Eye but couldn't come up with the money. Cohen, a 36-year-old excitable pop culture fanatic with a thing for soap operas, the B-52s, and all ill-advised mane of curly hair, worked his way as a segment producer in morning news before transitioning to entertainment. I assume if you shelled out for this book, you've already read his memoir, The Most Talkative. This is what he said. But he basically says, if you haven't had a chance to buy Andy Cohen's book, he says, in case you didn't, he was young, hungry, and annoyingly energetic. And there's this part where Lauren, who's one of the heads of the network at Bravo, has lunch with Cohen in 2008. And basically during a breakfast meeting at the then ultra-hip meatpacking district eatery, Pastis, Cohen told his boss that he had made himself an exercise mixtape featuring new Madonna and Mariah Carey songs, Fit and 40. While the meeting was obviously meant to be about something else, Zalznick couldn't stop mulling over the mixtape. She let Andy have it, saying that he thought he knew what was going on in the world, but he didn't, accusing him of being out of touch and getting older. If he wanted to stay relevant, she said, he'd better expand his worldview. Another section. Andy's public role may be to oversee the housewives, but he also wants to be more famous than any of them. Long before he was on-air talent, he cultivated relationships with celebrities like Sarah Jessica Parker and Kelly Ripa. Now his friend Anderson Cooper says that he never saw anyone enjoy the attention of celebrity as much as Andy. He is at a strange triangulation of power in that his celebrity was created by and reliant on both Bravo and the Real Housewives, though he has increasingly little to do with either. At the same time, he's not above meddling with the housewives when he feels like it. Continues, and he says that Andy Cohen wanted to do this mash-up reality star competition series, and it was, I guess, a flop. But Andy Cohen used to write these emails to the executive staffs, and they would make fun of the talent on the show because he would report things back to them like, Lisa kissed Jen, who would have thought? And, da-da-da. So anyway, it kind of sounds like that vacation mashup show that Andy's doing for the Peacock now, where a bunch of housewives from different franchises go on an island. I think the last one was Turks and Caicos, and they, I guess, compete and go through things together or whatever, and they film it like a reality show. I don't think it's come out yet, but I know they're shooting it now. And so it kind of sounds like he's trying that again. Okay, so what I want you to get out of that is not that he anything to do with the new reality show he's coming up with. It was that he started out as a gossip writer. He was writing emails of gossip about the reality shows he was overseeing to the executives. And from that came his blog that he started on Bravo TV. So let me read this to you now. He started a regular column which proved so popular that he started hosting a version of Watch What Happens Live online after episodes of Top Chef to interview booted contestants. This web series is what led to him being the host of the second Real Housewives of Orange County reunion. He had finally made the leap to on-air talent. He undoubtedly had been plotting since he typed the first sassy words into his BravoTV.com blog, gossip site, and Gawker affiliate Defamer wrote in 2007. He started this online show. The online show ends up moving to the network in 2009, and it's after party show. And then it becomes Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. And so first, Watch What Happens Live airs on Sunday and Mondays, which gives Cohen plenty of time to fulfill his network duties as Senior Vice President of Original Programming and Development. Until this changed just 2 years later in 2011 when Watch What Happens Live was averaging 1.2 million viewers and moved to Sunday through Thursday schedule. Cohen gave up some of his network responsibilities and started focusing on development rather than original programming, a distinction that most of us outside of the Free Bagel board meeting at NBCU wouldn't understand. Basically, it means he focused more on creating new programs than dealing with the day-to-day of existing programs. So he, in 2013, gives up his position as head of, development and everything in terms of Bravo Network and becomes only the executive producer of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills different shows. And which means he's making big decisions, but he's not day-to-day. And he's no longer really involved for finding new programming for Bravo or any of the production stuff related to Bravo's functioning. So, anywho, why am I telling you all this? Well, because it's important for you to understand why I think he might be shading me. One theory, theory one. I think that Andy Cohen doesn't like that I am now following in his footsteps. I am now, the last year, I've been working on developing my gossip sites and my gossip content, and I think he's pissed. I don't think he wants anyone to ever do what he doesn't say or control. And the fact that I did my own thing and just reinvented myself out of nothing, and it's kind of in a very similar way that he did, I think he's doesn't like it. So I think he's just I don't like her. And I think at all costs, he'll belittle me at every possible moment to make himself look like, oh, she's a gnat. We love the word gnat, right? Garcelle, Teddy Mellencamp. Anywho, I think I'm his gnat. Now there's another theory. The other theory is a little bit more scandalous. It is that back when I was on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and this came from a psychic that I had on my show, so we have to take it with a grain of salt, of course. But I kind of believe it, and I'll tell you why. But she felt when she read the cards as to why Andy Cohen had an issue with me, and she actually, this came to her in the reading that we did, again, on Dishing Drama, Dana Wilkey Uncensored. We got into unanswered questions that nobody knows the answers to, but we wanted, everybody wants to know the answers to. So that's what we did on the show. And this was something that came up by itself. And what she said was that someone in the production company told Andy Cohen a story about me that was untrue. And it made him hate me because of this story. Now, we don't know when this transpired. Actually, now that I think about it, it may have not been that it was someone. I thought it was someone in the production company. She said somebody, but didn't say who. So I suppose it could have been one of the cast members. That never really occurred to me because I kind of felt like it was a producer at Evolution that might have done it because I had a feeling that there were some that were really supportive to me and others that had his ear that weren't. And so I kind of assumed it was a producer, but it possibly could have been talent. I don't know. But anywho, somebody said something to him. And that was the other theory. And that since then, he's never gotten over it. Now, there's one more theory. So the third theory was that my ex-fiance refused to sign the release to go on the show, and they shot a lot of him. And then he basically didn't do what he said he was going to do to the producers, which I think was really bad, okay? He didn't. I did. But I did what I was supposed to, but he didn't. And he also, I guess, lied to the producers about some other really core things, which I didn't know were lies at the time, but I found out after the fact. So it's possible that that's why he couldn't stand me, because he thought somehow I was involved with all that, but I wasn't. But that's what I think it could have been. I don't know. Maybe he's just annoyed by that whole situation. But needless to say, it's pretty sad, because actually something might surprise you that happened with him. I'll tell you. The thing that was surprising is that when I went on the reunion, I had already gone on Andy's show in New York one time, and I was with Brandy for that show, and we had fun. Like, him and I really enjoyed it. Like, it was fun. We got in a nice fight. It was good. And then after that, we were at the reunion together, and he was very nice, and we had, and it was a good time, and Adrienne Maloof reached over to me during the reunion. She said, Andy really likes you. And I was like, really? That's so cool, because I like him. And I remember that, happened. So I kind of felt shocked in a way that I was iced out, which kind of lends, I guess, some credence to the psychic story that maybe someone said something after the fact to really make him do a 360. Anywho, I don't know. You guys will have to give your speculation as to why I've been completely... Now, this brings me to the Housewife and the Hustler, because I really believe that Andy Cohen hadn't seen the documentary when he first started shading it, but he did after, and I think his shading continued. He shouldn't be pissed. He could have easily asked me or Danielle or anybody to do one for him, but he didn't, So I don't know. Shouldn't be mad at them, because, the ABC producer was a fan of my show, Dishing Drama Dana, and she had heard many of the interviews I'd done about people who were involved in the case, and I talked at length about it. And I also was the one who broke the story about Erica Jane Girardi getting divorced from Tom Girardi before anyone else did. So I had a lot of intel and gossip around the Erica topic. And that is why I was on the show. And by what people did I interview? Matt Hamilton from the LA Times, Jay Edelson, the lawyer who represented the Lion Air victims. I also spoke with some of the victims, and I spoke to several times Ronald Richards, who was representing the trustee, or later did. But remember, when I was talking to these people, it was before anyone cared. So that's the important thing, I guess, before all of this sort of took off in this crazy thing. It just was, I like to cover gossip that interests me, and I just assume, so far I've been right, that what interests me interests other people. And so, she was just another one at notch in my belt of things that interested me. That's all, because I felt the divorce was weird, and that started it all for me. Okay, so anyway, I don't know why Andy Cohen felt that it was, hardly a documentary, because it's such a good show. And I hope you guys don't let him change your own individual opinion, because I know he can be an influencer. Anyway, I think I am going to end this video with my 2 comments that I did in response to when he shaded me. So I just got a call from my friend, and I guess Andy just went on Radio Andy and said that Erica's not being fired. And I don't know, I don't think anyone thought that Andy would ever fire Erica, because, he wants to make money off her. But what's really interesting is he said I wasn't a credible source, and I just have only one thing to say to that, Andy, and that is, why don't you listen to my podcast? I'm probably more credible than you at this point. Okay, so I have had a bunch of people ask me about my credibility because of what Andy said. So I'm going to post a slide with why ABC chose me, and it had very little to do with the fact that I was on Real Housewives of Beverly